What's up, y'all? My name is Ian Edwards, and welcome to the Soccer Comic Rant. Happy New Year. We made it. We're here. Football is back. We did one show at the end of the year, and now this is the first one for the year. So I hope everybody out there is good and, ready to live the year right and do right and have some fun, enjoying soccer and just living life with your loved ones and friends and new acquaintances and whatnot. Also, I guess we'll talk about Pele. I'm going to prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that he is the GOAT, the best player to ever do it. We're going to talk about the Premier League, what's happening at Liverpool. They just lost to Brentford. Also, follow me on Instagram at Ian Edwards Comic, and I have some shows coming up which I will put out. And I'm going to be at the Creek in the Cave in Austin on the 13th and 14th of January. 2 shows a night. But I got some of the usual homies here ready to talk soccer. And I'll start with, I'm going to introduce Lee first, so that after I introduce Lee, we could talk about Neil's brand new spanking background. It's got to be the greatest Zoom background of all time. And you've been having a lot of construction done, and they did their thing. But I'm going to introduce Lee Hudson, stand-up comic from England, Southampton fan. What up, Lee?
Hey, I'm all good. I'm waiting for my team to show up in 2023 still. I don't think they know that it's started yet. Well, do you know, to be fair, our last game was New Year's Eve, so maybe a new year will be a new start. But no, I'm good. I'm good.
You sure? You came in, that was very disgruntled.
I'm trying to reaffirm it to myself.
I guess it takes time to reaffirm. I feel you. And we got Neil Chakravarty with the lit background. That's dope, fam. What's going on over there?
It's good, but I still believe the greatest background is the Golden Gate Bridge that you were on for a year ahead of for almost all of 2022.
Now that stunk compared to this.
Neil's just displaying all the liquor that he needs to drink to forget Chelsea's games right now.
Oh boy, yeah. I even got some out. I even got some gin, which they say was, the spirit came from the streets of Chelsea. So
that's
hilarious. I need to join you there at the moment. So.
I know by the next podcast, if Chelsea keeps doing what they're doing, all the bottles behind Neil are going to be empty.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
Drink to that.
Yeah. Neil's going to be. It's going to be the drunk
alcoholic
soccer podcast.
At the end of 2023.
Yeah, he's just slurring it. And what we need to do. But yeah, I'm glad you guys are here. How was your New Year's? How'd you bring it in?
I went to a house party.
Oh, wow.
It was a pretty chill one though. When you get in your 30s, house parties are they're less crazy. So it was all very civilized. Some drinks, just watch the countdown on TV in the living room. It was it was a proper 30s house party. But no, it was all good. It was actually right next door to Wembley Stadium though.
What?
So yeah, a friend of a friend has a flat like right by there. Could see the archway from their balcony.
Was there anything going on at Wembley Stadium for New Year's?
No, no, there was nothing there, but it meant it was easy getting there.
Right.
And then because they got like an apartment with a high balcony, you could see like the fireworks over London and stuff. So
cool.
That was it was pretty cool. It was nice and chilled out. So it's the sort of New Year you get when you're in your 30s.
Yeah, that's funny. They better have a nice place if you're gonna leave your house to go do something at their house that you could have did at your house. They better have a nice view. They better have a balcony with you can see the arches, and it better be good and chill. And they better provide all the alcohol. Yeah, that's dope. And how was your party, Neil?
Same house party too, but just that was my house, so I didn't have to go anywhere.
Yeah, the pictures look dope.
Yeah, it turned out to be really nice. I was a little nervous, trying to make cocktails for so many people for the first time. But
you turned into a bartender?
Yeah. A friend of mine helped me out a little bit, and then it was okay because I realized the challenge is only to get past the first half hour, 45 minutes, because everybody's on their own anyway after that. So
right. Yeah, just be hospitable for like the first 30 minutes, and then all right, make your own shit. Like, I'm trying to party
everybody's like, people are like getting into the bar, like making their own thing. And I'm like, all right, yeah, just do that.
Yeah, that could be good and reckless. It's funny, like having a bartender, and it's like almost having a DJ. It's like a drink DJ that has to like
That's
get
funny.
people in a good mood all night. The same way a DJ has to play the right records.
I think kind of like DJ. You go to a DJ for a request. They don't like to change their shit, man. They just want to play songs that they have on their list. And so I had like a cocktails list, but then people are like coming up with different things. I'm like, I mean, I'm sure I can make it, but that's not what I planned on.
It's like some DJs take requests and some don't.
Some don't.
I don't take requests. These are the songs. These are the songs on the karaoke list. You singing one of these or not?
Yeah, I need to be a little more assertive in my drink DJ career.
Your drink DJ career, hilarious. I went to a party. Yeah. It's a house party too. I guess we're all around the same age, even though I'm still older. But it's like a civilized house party.
Yeah.
So my friend normally has this New Year's Eve party on New Year's Eve, and then he text like a week before and is like, you want to go to this New Year's Eve party? And I was like, all right, bet, right? And then the day before New Year's Eve, I hit my homeboy Hugh Moore. He's another writer comic. And I was like, what time you getting to JB's party tomorrow? And he said, that party's on New Year's Day. I was like, what? So then I was like, I thought I was going to...
Is it a sleepover? Because New Year's Day is for just getting a nap.
Like I think put it together so last minute, and to get it organized and have a caterer. Then when I got there yesterday, it was like, it was going to rain on New Year's Eve, which it did. So he didn't want everybody coming while people are drinking on New Year's Eve. So then I was like, so then I went, remember when you invited me to your thing? I said, I have a friend's thing to do. So then I was like, I don't. But then it rained so bad. I'm like, driving 2 hours to San Diego in the rain on a night. LA drivers are amateurs. They're not used to rain. And then on a night when everybody's going to be drinking, I just stayed at home. And I just stayed at home and watched Man United's win 3 times.
That's some nice to watch.
Yeah. But speaking of football, what's going on with Liverpool? Like, they just lost to Brentford 3-1 at Brentford. And it ain't easy to go to Brentford and beat them. They're a very intense team. And they put in work. And especially in front of their fans, they put in work. When United has to go there, I'm worried. So I'm not surprised.
I mean, you already went there and it didn't go well.
Right. That was our first game of the season. We were there, right? Or were they at our house?
No, it was early on. You were there because you were playing in that strip you've got on right now. And when everyone was going nuts thinking Ten Hag was going to be a flop.
I almost didn't buy this strip because of that game. But I was like, nah, it's still nice. I'll get it. But this was a bad luck strip for a minute. But yeah, like from my assessment, it's like, first of all, I feel like Brentford played it right. Me and Lee were just looking at the formation for Brentford, and they played a 3-5-2, which they know, like, in order for Liverpool to play good, they have to suffocate you in the midfield. So they put numbers in the midfield to match and overmatch Liverpool's numbers in the midfield. And even though at halftime, Liverpool had 75% of the possession of the ball, and Brentford only had 25%. Brentford had done more with the ball than Liverpool. They had 2 goals, 25%, and Liverpool had 75% and no goals. And plus, Brentford had some goals barred off the scoreboard. And Yeah, and I think the issue with Liverpool is there's no pressure in the midfield, no pressure, no high line, and the players that they have to replace, people like Henderson and what's his name? What's the Dutch midfielder who's gone from Liverpool now?
Wijnaldum.
Wijnaldum. And who else used to be in that midfield with them?
Well, it was Henderson, Wijnaldum, Fabinho. That was their best.
And Fabinho.
The best era, right? Henderson's kind of dropped off. Like, he's not the same player he was a couple of years back.
He's in and out because of injuries. Yeah. So, and you're right. So he's not what he used to be. But the players that have replaced him are not those type of guys. They're like finesse players, but without the same amount of urgency and energy. And Brentford, you gotta have energy to match the energy. And they try to Liverpool bring that energy in the second half after the substitution, and they did start to suffocate. And you saw moments of what Liverpool used to do with Henderson and Wijnaldum, but it wasn't enough. And
I think Klopp at some point, the plan was to use someone like Naby Keita, someone like Oxlade-Chamberlain as that next generation of that gung-ho, very athletic, physical midfield. Mm-hmm. But obviously, a lot of factors combined, injury being high up on there, and it just never panned out for these guys in that team. So he had to keep going back to someone like Henderson, and the fact that Wijnaldum isn't there kind of hurt them. Thiago was the next guy who came in, and he's a very different kind of player from what we've seen from Liverpool's midfield when they were really good. So he's saying like they're trying to kind of evolve into a more technical team from a physical team in that, at least as far as midfield goes. But there's going to be pain points. It's not helping them that it seems like some of the other pieces which would seem settled are also falling apart.
Right. So. Yeah, that makes. So you think he intentionally wants the midfield more technical, or does he want them technical and to press, and to be as like piranha hungry as his old midfield was?
Yeah, I don't think the press is ever going to go away in a Jurgen Klopp team.
It's gone.
Yeah, I mean, at least from his ideas. Yeah, it looks like it's gone from what we're seeing play out on the field. But I think when they're having the really good days, they still press well. So I would think that's still part of the plan. But I remember a few Jurgen Klopp quotes right at the beginning of this season. I think maybe even in preseason, where he said he was listing out all the midfielders they have, and he said this thing where he talked about Firmino as part of that list, which kind of tells me he's opening himself up to having more of a number 10 instead of two, gung-ho box-to-box midfielders. And that does indicate to me, combined with the signing of Carvalho, it does indicate to me that there is at least some sort of a plan to go to a number 10-ish, more of a Coutinho kind of player, which he had moved away from for a long time.
Or just drop Firmino in the midfield, because I think when Firmino was his 9, that he played like just as hungry, or as hungry as a midfielder. So I always thought, like I said on one of the podcasts, like put Firmino in as a midfielder. He would even use him sometimes, pull him out, put somebody in like Jota, and then drop Firmino back. But you need that energy to match a team like Brentford's energy. And these, how are you gonna have 73% possession of the ball? You make 652 passes compared to Brentford's 237 passes. Brentford had 49% pass accuracy. You had 83, and they scored 3 goals and 2 other goals that weren't allowed. That's like being clinical and taking advantage of like any inch of anything that you get. Meanwhile, Liverpool weren't. But there's been just so many nights like this for Liverpool, and they just bought Cody Gakpo, and you would think they spent money in the offseason, so you think they would be better than this. Like, I don't think anybody didn't have Liverpool in their top 4 up to this point of the season. I don't know if you got anything on this, Lee?
Yeah, I think just like you say, it's hard to say if anything's that wrong with Liverpool's model when they're dominating the ball, they're having more shots. It's a clinical thing. Like, I mean, when I watch Núñez, I like the way he plays. You know, he causes lots of problems. He works hard. He runs the channels. But the guy's just, it's like he's trying too hard once he gets in the finishing positions at the moment. And he's not quite doing it. Like, he had one cleared off the line today. He had one disallowed. Like, he's just not getting the luck. And when you're not taking your chances at one end and then you're giving up easy goals at the other end, because I think a lot of that stuff today was preventable. Brentford terrified them on set pieces, though. That's one area where Brentford are very clinical, is on set pieces. They do, as a club, they do a lot of work on set pieces as well, and they do a lot of analysis on it, and they come up with different routines and stuff and look at ways they can maximize those. I mean, 2 of the disallowed goals were off of corners, and one of the goals they scored was off a corner as well. So they really caused Liverpool problems with that weapon they've got, and that's the sort of thing you need to maximize when you're a team in a game where you're not going to have much of the ball. Counter-attacks and set pieces are going to be the 2 weapons, and they maximize those to full effect. Like Mbeumo's goal to kill the game, that was on the counter-attack. Obviously, Konate was messed up there. They were looking for the foul. It wasn't a foul. And then, you know, Mbeumo's put it away. But that's the sort of chance where if that happens to Liverpool, Núñez is in that position, he misses or he's offside or something. And it's those fine margins. Like I say, Liverpool could have easily won this game today. They created enough chances to win the game. If they'd have defended better, they would have won the game. But they didn't do those things. They didn't put the chances away. They didn't defend well at the moments where they had to defend. And that's what's cost them. I don't think it's necessarily, like I say, the game model was such that's causing them problems. There are still some issues in that midfield. They're not quite pressing the way they want to. But when you have as much of the ball as they have, when you have the chances they have, and when you concede the types of goals they concede, that's almost individualistic stuff or not defending set pieces well enough stuff. The overall actual game, I think they did what they set out to do in between the 2 penalty boxes, from the edge of the 18-yard area that side to the edge of the 18-yard area the other side. All between there, they did what they intended to do for the most part, and then they fell short in both those two pieces, really.
Yeah, I feel like not scoring has gotten into Darwin Núñez's head. And you would hope he looks at the goals that he already has and say, hey, that's good for somebody who's brand new in this league, so I'm fine. Like, he did put away a really good goal today, but his eagerness to get a goal made him be offside. So he's just got to relax. But the more time it takes for him to score again, the more unrelaxed he might become, and more offsides he might be, or the more he might flub his lines when he gets closer to goal, even if he is onside.
And you know what the football media and football fans are like. When a player goes on a run where they're like this, then all of a sudden everyone's on their back. It becomes a big thing. It gets talked about over and over and over and over again. And it becomes a thing. Like we've seen it happen with big strikers, big money strikers in the past. Like, you know, Torres when he was, I mean, sorry, Neil, most of these guys are at Chelsea, but Torres at Chelsea, Shevchenko at Chelsea.
He's starting to look like a Bundesliga.
I mean, this
is starting to look like a Bundesliga, a forward that Chelsea bought. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, like down to the number of, like, you know, even like losing out on an offside goal. I remember it was so funny, like when he was at Chelsea for Werner, people got so frustrated that at one point Chelsea fans started statistically quantifying the number of offsides goals that he had scored, the number of times he had hit the post, the number of, you know, VAR ruled out once. Like, I've never seen something like that. So yeah, I mean, as Lee said, like when Núñez is playing, there's always something happening, and we used to see a lot of that with Werner too. That he definitely is influencing the game. He's not somebody who's hiding, which is, you know, like at Chelsea, we used to compare him with Morata. So Morata, he would just go missing. Like, you would not even see him in a lot of games. But I think Núñez, much like Werner, you see him in a lot of games. He is influencing the play, but it's just that last bit of quality, which, you know, you probably have that extra bit of time and space in another league, which you don't have in the Premier League. And getting that absolutely right is a learning curve. I mean, who knows? Maybe it would have worked out for Werner. Like, he only got one proper season. Like, second season, he was more of like a bench player, so he never really got a chance. With Nunes, I feel like he will get a lot more chances because Klopp is the kind of manager who will give his players more time to adjust and do something. So, I hope for his sake that he gets he needs a little bit of luck. Like, some of these things, it could easily have been goals another day. But some of the other things, like the shot, I don't know if it's a shot or the cross, like a cross shot that he did today, which he could have. I think he was trying to go for the far corner, but instead he just shot parallelly to the face of the goal. And those are some basics that he needs to get right.
I think it's also affecting Liverpool that Salah, although he's not playing badly, he's not quite playing to the level that he was when Liverpool were just demolishing everyone in their path. Like, he's still a good player, but he's not quite, because there was a season or two where he was approaching like that really elite top tier of players. Like, he was putting up numbers that would compete with them, and now he's kind of dropped off. Like, he's still an effective player for them. He scored a couple of games ago, and like, he still scored an amount of goals this season that's okay, but he's not quite carrying them up to the level that he was. And I don't know if that's also to do with the team around him not quite doing it as much as well, but he doesn't seem to quite be firing to the point where he could just win them games by himself.
I'm trying to look up to see how many goals he has.
He has 7 goals.
In the Premier League.
Okay amount.
Yeah, which is okay. Like,
that's what I mean. Yeah.
It's just not okay for him being him. Yeah, like, with that bumper contract he got, where it's probably not justifying that. But let me see if he's still the top most scorer at Liverpool. Firmino. Well, yeah, he's tied with Firmino at 7.
And Firmino
had that game against. He had that game against Bournemouth where he smashed like 4 goals in or something crazy.
Yeah, and you don't want to be too harsh, because Liverpool had won 4 in a row, right? Up until that point. Is that what it is?
And also, like, the team isn't playing that great. So to get 7 goals and 4 assists in a down year, which let's face it, like, it's looking like it's going to be a down year for Klopp's Liverpool, right? 7 goals and 4 assists at the halfway mark is perfectly fine.
Yeah. But like I say, he's not like carrying them to the level he was. When you compare that with someone, I mean, I know you can't really compare anyone to Haaland. He's a freak, but that's a player who's putting up elite numbers now, whereas Salah was putting up those elite numbers and he's not anymore, which is, kind of a hindrance to them when other players aren't stepping up and filling those gaps either.
Yeah, Salah did kind of get shut down today. Like, when I talk about like energy, like, and you look at the percentages of the time that Brentford had the ball compared to Liverpool, it's like, without the ball, the energy that Brentford puts into not letting Liverpool through them is epic. And they definitely shut down Salah. And Liverpool definitely had to step it up in the second half. And they definitely had to like do more things that made them vulnerable, which led to, Keita trying to get through. Keita is a player they don't want to play a lot because I think he's not that good defensively. And today he coughed up the ball on the 3rd goal. And if you're playing Brentford, any team that plays Brentford and Janelt gets the ball, foul him. Because don't let him make a pass. He made several killer passes today that led to great offensive chances for Brentford. So that's the scouting report. Foul Janelt. Take the technical foul, because he will find somebody fast and dangerous in strikes. But it's a great game. Like, what are they saying in England about it? Like, now that Liverpool has lost again, I think they lost 5 games.
That it's not the levels you'd expect from them. People are giving Brentford props as well, though, which is good to see. just pointing out that they're a tough team to play, especially at their place as well. Like they've taken scalps there. Like obviously they beat you guys there, they beat Liverpool there, they drew with Spurs.
You have to keep bringing that up.
They're a problem when you play them there. I mean, they're a good side away as well, but especially at home, their fans get behind the team. Like I say, they create that atmosphere. They start throwing corners and long throws and everything into your box. And if you're going to play Brentford at Brentford, you better be turning up with defenders who are willing to head the ball, that are willing to get physical, because it's going to be that sort of game.
Yeah, if you go to play Brentford, in Brentford, act like you're going to play Man City, because Brentford will treat you like you're Man City. You know what I mean? Like they want to get a major scalp. It's tough down there. They probably, if you're probably not that good in the league or not that high up in the table in the league, you have a better chance to play Brentford at Brentford, because they'll be like, they might get a little they might not take the game as serious. But at Brentford, if you're a top 5 team, top 6, yeah. And now Brentford is 7th in the table, right behind Liverpool.
That's one of the things though that frustrates me about how we've been performing the last couple of seasons, is that Brentford, their budget's smaller than ours, and they've maximised their resources. They're getting the most out of what they have. Their squad isn't very expensively assembled. They've just been really smart with who they've bought. They've been really clear about how they want to play. And when you have all those ingredients, this is what happens.
Don't worry, they'll mess up soon. All the Premier League teams mess up soon. Did you get their guys?
We got their former director of football. Yeah, he's I don't know, starting to wonder if it was someone else at the club that was doing it all day.
No, but you did get those guys in, but you just didn't have anybody with that much experience that was still in form and at their peak to pair them with you got the German guy, you got those defenders, those are good potential people.
Yeah, but and these things take time, right? Anything that we're talking about that has to do with behind the scenes stuff, it's gonna take a little bit before you actually start seeing the results on the pitch.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not a magic wand, but
you just gotta hope that you stay in the league by the time that happens.
Big thing.
I wanna skip to Pele, because and then we'll go back to the Premier League. So let me ask y'all first: who do you think was the greatest player of all time, guys? Your opinions.
It's a tough one, because it's hard when you're comparing different generations, and I prefer to look at it as the greatest player of certain eras.
That's one way to look at it.
And I think Pele was hands down. He's one of the best of all time. Clearly, I don't like to say there's one definitive best of all time. I would put him and Maradona both up there. I would say Messi's joined them now. There's a tier of players below that, like Cruyff and Eusebio, that have been at those sort of levels. Brazilian Ronaldo, who else? Zidane, on that next kind of level. But for me, Pele, Maradona, Messi are the 3 for me. But Pele's the king of the World Cup. You can't dispute that. He's the absolute king of the World Cup, and his career is just, it's a special thing, and it's good that people are celebrating it, and there's loads of videos going around and showing just because there's a lot of people that won't have seen. There's a lot of people that might have just heard of Pele, and they won't have had a reason to go back and look at the sort of stuff that he did, and how he influenced the game. And I mean, we're having the conversation in the chat how he was the first global superstar of football. He was the first player that people who didn't follow football knew about. He was a name that people knew because he elevated himself to such a level, purely through his abilities. There wasn't big, the internet wasn't around then. So the fact that there was people in every continent who knew who Pele was, is mad, and that tells you just how good he was. But yeah, I mean, like I say, you look back through some of those old videos and see some of the skills he was pulling off, some of the goals he was scoring, and just watching some of the games from those classic Brazil eras when they had just some crazy players playing with him, as well. And some of the goals they scored. It's incredible.
And what do you think, Neil?
I mean, on one hand, like a lot of what I know about Pele is, secondhand information, right? Like by watching clips on YouTube, or by reading about him. I've read a lot about him, and obviously that documentary that came out last year. I actually, in hindsight, now that he passed away, I actually feel this is great that the documentary came out when he's still alive, and it put a lot of things in perspective. Because I also had kind of bought into that narrative about the fact dude never played in Europe. That why didn't he ever move? Although when you actually closely analyze, a lot of players at that age, in that era, didn't move from Brazil. So, which would probably tell me that the standard of play in Brazil was really that different from the standard of play in Europe, unlike now, where there is definitely a clear difference.
And not just Brazil, Argentina,
exactly,
and all of South America, yeah.
Exactly. So his club, so the fact that he doesn't have a Champions League, it's not that crazy. It's not that big a deal. Like, dude would have had a Champions League this year. So it's just a logistic thing. He didn't buy a plane ticket. That's what it boils down to. And I think, as Lee said, it's so tough to compare across eras, right? So what I like to do is compare him to other people in that era and find the differential between him and the next best player versus, say, somebody like, a Maradona or Messi. And what they did in their era, what is considered to be the biggest thing. So in Pele's era, definitely the biggest trophy in football by far is the World Cup, right?
And that's in any era.
That's in any era. And we know now, having seen Ronaldo never lift the World Cup, Messi having to wait almost till his last kick of a ball.
Yes.
In his probably his last World Cup to win a World Cup. That how difficult it is. So many great players go through their entire careers not having lifted the World Cup. Fact that he did it thrice is just you can't really there's nothing more to say. Yeah, I mean, maybe if he had moved to Barcelona and played a couple of years, would it have really made that big a difference?
I don't hear people.
The difference this big, yeah. So I feel between this is also the same month as Messi, where when Messi's lifted the World Cup, right? So for me, it was always very close between Messi and Ronaldo. I know Messi, he is probably he's the best magician I've seen on a football field, but I also feel I've seen Ronaldo do it in what I consider to be the toughest league, the Premier League, in an age where he was really, really raw, and he actually succeeded at a high level in the Premier League. But getting the World Cup for me, because it's so close between them both, puts Messi ahead of Ronaldo in my book. But overall, the fact that 3 World Cups means it's across 12 years is so you have the longevity box tick to. I think, I got to go with Pele. And, just to touch upon what Lee said, he wasn't just the first global superstar from football. I think he was the first global superstar of not even sports. You look at any field of the world, which other name before that era did people, everybody everywhere knew of? If it's not say a religious figure like Jesus or something, right? No other name can you come up with which everybody knew.
Well, right? Let me just make sure. I got to find out what year Muhammad Ali.
So I actually looked into that the same day we had this conversation. So they're very close. So I think we're talking about a few years here and there, but I think Pele was just a few years
before him. Yeah, because he won it in 58, right? So I'm going to agree with you. I'm going to say Pele. And when you said Ronaldo played in the toughest league, I can even evaporate that argument by saying, what was the last World Cup that Pele won? What year was that?
70.
70, that's what I thought.
Actually, I'm sorry, they didn't win it. They didn't win 3 peat, right? So that 3 World Cups actually across 16 years. So
right.
Yeah, he played in 4.
Yeah,
played in 4.
Yeah.
So that, and then, so here's my argument about toughest leagues in the world. Like, Pele played on tougher pitches where when you're dribbling, you could beat the man, but you might not beat the pitch. A pothole might tackle the ball from you. On top of that, in 70, was that in Mexico when he won? Where did he win that one? Even though it doesn't matter. That's in that World Cup, that's when they first introduced the yellow and red card. So he was playing in an era where there was no yellow and no red card. Where in the World Cup before that, he got fouled out of the World Cup in '66. And so for most of his years, people could like foul the shit out of you and with no repercussions. So when you say Ronaldo played in a tough league, I know the Premier League, I respect it, but I just think it was just a tougher time.
Oh, no, I was just comparing between, when I said that, I was just comparing between Messi and Ronaldo. And why I feel like Ronaldo, like before the World Cup was like a slight touch ahead in terms of like overall accomplishments.
Yeah, I know. I just want to shut down this argument for just everybody, period.
Yeah.
And I don't know. Sometimes you want somebody to be the best because it's emotionally, but then I went back. Like when Messi won the World Cup, that week I spent a lot of time watching like his 2008 best dribbles and skills, his 2009 and like a few seasons. And there's so many. He's mad fucking skillful. But then Pele died. So I started looking at some of Pele's stuff. And I looked at some of Maradona stuff. And I even looked at George Best stuff because Pele at one time said that George Best was the best. And like just the eye test on all of them, there was nothing any of them that could do that Pele did not do. The same moves, he did them all first. Somebody even made a video and said Pele did it first. And he showed moves that all of them did, and Pele did them first. Like every move. So there's a first guy to do all that shit. And then also, as far as like not playing in Europe, sometimes, and we argue about this all the time or debate it, like sometimes somebody will say something that sounds really good and everybody just repeats it. They say, Pele never played in Europe. Europe wasn't the Europe it is now back then. And like you mentioned, none of the players from South America really went at that time to Europe to play in Europe. So those leagues weren't like the best leagues yet. So if you're in Brazil, where most of the best players are, there's 4 World Cup teams that qualified for the World Cup of players there. And you have to play against some of those players, and some of them are your teammates. You're only getting better. And then when you had to meet on a big stage to prove who was the best, he won 3. And he didn't win one of them because he got fouled out of it. And then he also won, like, I think 2 World Club Championships where the best clubs went head to head. And then he did tours with Santos in all over Europe and played those players. So it's just, just from watching the footage I was talking to this guy. He's a Spurs fan, actually. It's not Martin. And he said he had a Fire Stick and he logged into like Brazilian TV and they showed like, you can see Pele's 100 last goals for Santos. Like he watched it live on like Brazilian TV. And he said, it's crazy. And I watch so much stuff, but I'm going to try and go find that too. But I just think it's the same moves on a shittier pitch with dirtier players. And the speed is on par with some of the speed now, like just from the eye test. But I just think you win 3 World Cups and then you look at stuff and you compare them all. I feel like they're almost, to be honest, all on the same level. Like I went back and watched some of Ronaldo footage, and his Real Madrid shit is terrifying. Like I felt like I was watching some shit I never saw before, and I watched it, and it's like you even forget how good Ronaldo was. But I would just say they're on the same level. And then somebody else who deserves a level of respect that his name is never mentioned among these guys, because Pele mentioned George Best. I went to look at George Best shit, right? This guy, like, his name should be mentioned too. He's from Ireland, right? So
Northern Ireland, yeah.
Northern Ireland, right? So they don't really never have a good team. You know, he's from Belfast, right? And so they're not going to compete on an international level. But he played for Man United, and Glenn Hoddle, right, got dropped a lot of times when he played for English teams because he was considered a luxury player. Now, George Best is a luxury player that will press the shit out of you like somebody with no skill. He played donkey luxury football. Like, there's footage of him just one man pressing people. He'll press the whole fucking defense. Like, why is somebody with alcohol in his system?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, he's also practicing alcohol while doing all of this.
Through whiskey or whatever he drank, his Irishness, and he's pressing an entire defense, and he has speed and flair that is like, I've never seen no shit like that. So I feel like he was pretty much one of the best people ever, but because internationally, like, you know, it's the luck of the draw. If you're from Wales, you know, you're not going to get that far internationally. And same thing with, like, if you're Scottish or you're just Irish, like, but George Best, man, my God, that motherfucker on black and white pitches, all dirt, just attacking defenders, running all the way 1-2s up and down the field, all the way into the goal, shots, dribbling, every fucking thing. So he also deserves like a shout out too. But I'm gonna go with Pele.
I guess a good question at this point would be that, let's say in the next 20, 30 years, right? What could somebody do to go past say Pele?
2 World Cups and 2 Euros.
If it's a European player, or like 2 Copa.
I don't think it's necessarily just the titles as well, though. Like Ian said, it's the eye test as well. It's watching what they do and how they do it, and you know, that level of quality as well. Because I think there's some players out there who, like, their honor roll is pretty decent. Like, there's defenders you wouldn't even think of who've got the honor roll of, you know, World Cups and Champions Leagues, but it's like, well,
Clarence Seedorf, I think he's probably won the most number of Champions Leagues.
Yeah, he won with Ajax, with Real Madrid, with AC Milan.
Yeah.
He didn't win anything like with the Netherlands. The Netherlands have not really won anything internationally. But you know, like I say, he was a good footballer, but you look at the stuff he was doing, it wasn't at the same level as those guys. He's an elite level footballer who won consistently for years, and that's, you know, massive. But like I say, there's something special about those guys who won things at the highest level, but were also doing things on the field that nobody else or very few others could do at the level they were doing it at, and in the games they were doing it at. And I think that's what separates it for me. Like I said, there's lots of amazing players over the years who've done stuff, but it's just, the eye test is the thing when you're watching what they're doing and asking yourself who else is doing it and who else is doing it consistently and at that level. That's the real separator for me.
Yeah, and speaking of eye tests, like, you know, everybody talks about Maradona's goal against England, right? But what about Brazil? Pele, 17 years old, his goal in the World Cup final, the actual final against Sweden, like, that's no normal goal. Like, that's a crazy goal. In a final, 17 years old, flipped the ball over somebody's head, volleyed into the back of the net. Like, people, like, there's hardly, everybody doesn't have a TV, but once you see that, you're like, global superstar. Like, so it's like, you got these people that scored these amazing goals and did these amazing things. I just think when something's in the past, people don't take the time to go back and look at the past. But I just had fun, like, looking at these people. And Ronaldo, like he was really fucking good. And I'm talking about Portuguese Ronaldo. And then I didn't even look at Brazilian Ronaldo, but you just have that feeling that he's not ahead of Pele. But
No, he's not ahead of Pele. But when you watch like Brazilian Ronaldo, he was frightening.
Yeah.
The stuff he was doing, and it's only like, you know, some bad life choices and injury problems, which I think led to those as well. That slowed him down because he was on course to be one of the best ever. And if you watch his best of videos and the stuff he was doing for Barca, for Real Madrid, for Brazil, for Inter, the guy was just a monster. One of the best games, I think one of the best individual performances I've ever seen, which I was sat at home as a kid watching live on TV, was Man United versus Real Madrid at Old Trafford.
Oh yeah.
And Ronaldo hit a hat trick, and like literally he got a standing ovation from the United fans because he was that good that day. And he was just unplayable. And yeah, he's been one of my favorites to watch of, you know, the era that I've been alive for sure. But it's just, a shame that he wasn't able to do it for as long as he could have.
Right. And I remember that game, and Beckham had a good game that game, right?
He scored a couple of goals. This was like, I think, around the time when his transfer was already sealed. Beckham?
No, I think that really put like him in like he was famous, but I think that game kind of put him more on the radar for like, you know, the Real Madrid. What's his name? The Galactico guy, the guy that wants to put, because you could see
Perez,
Perez, like he's like, oh shit, like, oh, I could add this to this squad. Like Beckham also is underrated for like the energy he would put into a match. Like he was just a pretty boy. He was also like a fighter, like a straight up fighter with flair. Like he'd give you everything. Like you can't play for Alex Ferguson and just be a pretty boy. You have to like want that shit. And Beckham did that shit too. And as far as like Ronaldo phenomenal, like he was fucking great. I just didn't get a chance to look at like his highlights, but I just like, that's one of the greatnesses that you don't even have to look at film. It just stays with you, you know? So I imagine if I look at it, it'll just probably even enhance my belief in him being one of the greatest even more. So
yeah, just looking at that game, 2003, it was 4-3 to United was a score.
Yeah, but Madrid won on aggregate.
Yeah, we got knocked out anyway.
But Beckham scored those 2 late goals, right? And I think so Beckham left at the end of that season, right? There were already quite a few rumors.
Yeah.
Or was that 2004?
It was pretty soon after then.
Because I remember, like, the reason why I remember is I remember somebody on commentary saying that, well, if Real Madrid had any doubts, they don't have any more. Something, you know, worse to that effect, talking about Beckham being in their sights.
I mean,
well, they took Van Nistelrooy not long after that as well.
Oh yeah, he scored that game too.
Let me see something. I'm just trying to roll back to so what do you think of like the Boxing Day fixtures and some of these results, like Man City tying with Everton, thank you Everton, and Newcastle doing what they're doing, and we should talk about this Newcastle versus Arsenal game. Is it Thursday?
It's this week for sure. I can't remember if it's Wednesday or Thursday, but it's coming up.
I'll tell you. It's, where is this thing? Man U plays Bournemouth tomorrow. Where is this thing? Yeah, no, it's shit. What is this thing doing? Crystal Palace, Tottenham, Aston Villa, Wolves. Wednesday is Leeds versus West Ham. Wednesday is Southampton versus Forest. All right, Lee. Man U versus Bournemouth tomorrow. Oh, there it is. Tomorrow, Arsenal versus Newcastle. Now, number 3 versus number 1. What do you think of Newcastle's chances of going to the Emirates and drawing some blood?
I mean, they've got a chance. The way they're playing right now. I mean, I know they they faltered a little bit against Leeds. They still managed to not lose the game, which was big. You know, that's what a team needs to do. If you're not playing that great in a game, at least take a point. And they did that. So, yeah, I think it'll be a really interesting game. It'll be interesting to see who dominates the game and what sort of setup Newcastle go there with, whether or not they just say, okay, we're playing Arsenal, they want the ball, we'll let them have it. We'll maybe try and play on the counter, because I think some of their players they've got kind of suit the counter attack as well, depending on who starts up front for them as well. Because if it's Wood, he's not really a counter attacking player, but they got players who can do that. So yeah, it'll be interesting and be interesting to see how that, because that midfield for Arsenal at the moment is pulling teams apart. When Partey's in there, Xhaka's playing different this season. Odegaard is quite possibly one of the most effective players in the league right now, with the amount of assists and goals he's popping up with. So have Newcastle got the players to go toe to toe with them? I think Joelinton he'll be pretty key for them, because he's going to obviously be in the midfield, unless they put him out wide to try and run in on the counters. But Bruno Guimaraes is going to be in there as well. So it's that midfield battle is going to be really, really interesting. And then it's
two of the best midfields in the Premier League going at it.
Yeah. And it'll be interesting to see with Trippier as well, because he has been doing so much for Newcastle this season. You know, he's been a big influence on them. He provides a lot for them attacking wise, but he's going to be going up against Martinelli, and Martinelli is going to make him defend. He's going to look to pin him back and stop him from getting deep into that Arsenal half at all. So there's loads of interesting battles all across the pitch in this game. I can't remember who it's likely to be, whether it's Burn. I mean, Newcastle better not play Burn on the left, because I think Saka will eat him up. He's a good player, but I think Saka will eat him up. This is a real test for some of these Newcastle players defensively, going up against an attack this good. Because Arsenal at the moment, they're on fire. I mean, you saw against Brighton. Brighton caused Arsenal problems, but Arsenal were just like, fuck it, we're going to outscore you. We're going to, a 4-2 win. They forgot a little bit about their defending in that game, and just went, no, we're just going to go all out and finish you. And I could see this one being high scoring, because I think Newcastle have got it in them to score in this game at the Emirates, but I think Arsenal have probably got it in them to score one or two more. So I think it could be similar to that Brighton game, but I mean, it's not beyond the realms of possibility that Newcastle could go there if their game plan's right, and if the players are all on form and play to their full potential, they could win it.
So, I do think Arsenal, especially based on a lot of the stuff you're saying, have an advantage. But let me just say something. Lloyd asked me a question, and it's something based on the clip we just posted of Neil saying something about Newcastle. Neil does not like their form because it means bad news for Chelsea. And like you said you were waiting for them to what? Falter or
to drop off, yeah. I'm waiting for the Newcastle drop off, yeah.
And Lloyd, right, said that to me. He said they're gonna drop off. You know what I said to Lloyd? Isaac is injured, Callum Wilson is injured, and Saint Maximum is just coming back. What if this is their fall off? Like, when those players come back, they're only going to be better. Like, to be able to sub those guys in and get them more playing time and get their legs Premier League worthy is only going to be and mean an improved Newcastle. So this is them with their fall off. Their fall off is starting Joe Linton out of position, because his new position is midfielder. So now they start him left wide on the left. That's St. Maximum's position. You know what I mean? So their fall off is using Longstaff. Their fall off is using Woods, right? Their fall off, like Woods should be coming off the bench for them. And with their fall off, they're still getting results, and they're third. So wait till they get Isaac and what's his name back? Isaac, St. Maximum,
Wilson and St. Maximum both came off the bench against Leeds.
Right. So
they're almost there.
They're almost there. So Listen, they did their fall off period. They're about to step it up another level and chase Arsenal up the table. And so this is going to be super interesting. Like, there's a lot of players here that don't want to get replaced. They love Saudi money, and they saying, you ain't going to just like buy a whole new team and get rid of me like that. I'm sticking around. And you brought up, just on the Arsenal side, you brought up Odegaard. Oh my gosh, this dude, fam, what he's doing now, I bet Laporte, is it Laporte? We just mentioned his name. What's the Real Madrid guy who put the Galacticos together? Perez. He's like, hey, what about that guy on Arsenal? I think we should buy him. And they're like, bro, we sold him. He was ours. And he's like, get the fuck out of here. We had that guy? Yeah, we had that guy. That was the guy? Yeah, that was the guy. How much did Arsenal get him for from Liverpool, from Real Madrid? I think it was like 20 mil. I think it was not that much. But this motherfucker is balling his ass off, like on an elite level. And I don't know if he can keep this up, but I kind of almost hope he does. And but I do think Arsenal is like one Partey injury away from like collapse. Like, I don't see who they'll use to replace him if he goes out. So we beat them when they had no Partey, you know, so that's their issue. And I don't know if Neil got stuff to jump in on this. I'm sorry, I was talking a lot.
I mean, I feel like in the kind of season Arsenal's having, there are these certain seasons where you feel like just the level of that the team is playing and the way everything is in sync, the tactics are on point, it elevates even players that you would otherwise not expect a lot from. So somebody like Xhaka, for example, he's playing at a level where Xhaka is playing at a level which I at least didn't think he had that in him. So I wouldn't be surprised. Like, I know what you're saying about if Partey is injured, who would come in, but I wouldn't be surprised if somebody just raised the level and because now they know you have a chance at there is no scope of like meandering along. So I wouldn't be surprised if they have somebody, or the transfers in the window's open. They might even buy somebody to just go for it and make sure that they make this lead count, because this is the best shot they've had at winning the league in over almost 2 decades now. Last time they won the league was 2003, right, or 2002. So this is their chance to make it count.
Who's the guy that they're rumored to be looking at? It's like a midfielder from the Ukraine.
Mudryk from Shakhtar.
Yeah.
And he played on Ukraine.
I think he plays for the national team, but he scored 3 goals for Shakhtar in the Champions League group stage, which isn't bad for a winger.
Is he Russian though?
Is he
Russian?
No, he's Ukrainian.
He's Ukrainian.
He's Ukrainian.
Yeah. Oh, what's his position though? Is it like CDM, like Partey, or box to box? Because Partey's.
Oh no, he's Partey's an 8. Okay. No, Mudryk's a winger. He can play either side. He can play. I think he's right-footed, but he plays on the left, cutting in on his right, which would put him in direct competition with Martinelli. But he can play on the other side as well, so they could switch him in for Saka. Martinelli can obviously play central as well, so I'm not sure they need him right now, but I mean,
yeah, I know.
If they think he's good enough, then yeah.
Yeah, this will just all be interesting. Like that's the game to watch tomorrow, 11:45 for me. There's 2 games on, but I feel bad for the other game. Who's gonna want to watch Leicester Fulham? And I like watching Fulham, but it's all about that Arsenal Newcastle. Do you want to talk about Southampton Fulham?
Yeah, I'll talk about it. I got some thoughts.
Yeah, what's the thoughts?
The thought is that we didn't play horrifically in this game. First half we set up 5-4-1. We looked to frustrate them. We did that. We countered. Shea Adams had a massive chance on the counter attack where he got in 1v1 with Leno. Leno did well, to be fair, to force a save, but a Premier League striker should be looking to finish a chance from there. And then we've conceded 2 goals from corners. And one of them was a very specific routine where Nathan Jones said he'd showed the players 10 times on the training ground. This is what they do from these corners.
Oh, shit.
But both goals we conceded were from corners, which, like I said about Brentford maximising that, and, that's on Liverpool for not defending that. It's on us for not defending that against Fulham. Like, these are the little things that can turn a game. You can play well for the majority of the game, but if you fuck up on corners, then it can cost you. And it's a shame because it ruins all the hard work. Like, this was a much more improved performance than the Brighton game, because Fulham are a good team right now, and to go there and almost take a point, which, I was praying we could get the point, because I think it would have lifted confidence a little bit, just something to cling to. And then, to lose it on 2 corner set piece goals. Annoyingly, one of them wasn't even going in as well. The first one from Andreas Pereira was going wide, and it hit Ward-Prowse and then flew into the top corner. It was going wide before that, but these are the bits of luck that sometimes you don't get when you're down the bottom. Like, it never rains but it pours. And we didn't have the players to be clinical enough at the other end of the field. Like, it was another. I was saying I think on the last podcast that Ward-Prowse hadn't really been scoring free kicks for a while, and he put this one in no problem. Leno was grabbing air. So he's stepping up, but it worries me that we're only scoring from Ward-Prowse's goal against Brighton was a rebound off a penalty. This goal was a free kick. Like, we're missing chances in open play that aren't good enough. And I think if you look at big chances created, what they term as big chances, we're in the top half of the Premier League this season for big chances created, which is a damning statement on our finishing. And then we're giving away goals from corners constantly at the other end of the field. That's a problem. And we need to fix both those things. If we're giving up silly, like I was saying with Liverpool earlier, if we're giving up silly goals and then we're not taking our chances at the other end on a much worse scale, it's hurting us the same way it's hurting Liverpool. But like I say, for us, it's potentially going to cost us our place in the league, and I don't want that. It gives me some nice little short away trips next year, maybe to Millwall and places like that. Charlton maybe, but you want to be a Premier League team, and it'd be interesting to see if Jones has it in him to fix these things, because we're not the biggest team overall across the pitch, but we've got some big centre-backs, and I think that's maybe why he wants to play 3 centre-backs, so that he's got more protection on set pieces. But he started with 3 centre-backs, and we conceded a corner in the first half of that game. So, he needs to figure that out, or figure out a way to minimise the risk of giving away corners as well, because that might be part of it too. But he needs to find the solutions. But I'm glad there was an improvement from the Brighton game. That's the small silver lining that I'm clinging to. But it still wasn't great, but it's at least it didn't get worse. It got a little bit better.
Fulham's not an easy win. So
no.
So hey,
but I mean, we might chat after the Forest game on Wednesday, and I might be in full meltdown mode if we lost badly.
You feel like you should get that?
I don't feel like we should get it, because Forest are a good team. They've got pace and power in their team, and they've got players that can play well. Like, they obviously, when we're going to touch on it when we discuss the Chelsea game, they caused Chelsea some problems. So Nottingham Forest isn't a given, but they've scored 1 goal away from home all season. 1 goal. If we let them score any more than that, then that's not good.
Go ahead, Lee. You can just talk about Nottingham Forest right now.
But we need to be winning that game. Like, they're a good team, and we've got no right to beat them, but we need to be winning that game if we've got ambitions of staying in this league, because if they come and they roll us over without us even putting up a fight, then that for me is worrying to the point where it's like, I'm not sure we're going to turn this around now. Like, I think for us, it's on a knife edge at the moment, and it depends what the next performances are like, because we've got some games coming up where we can potentially take some points if we play well, and also we've got some time to buy players. I don't think there's going to be many. Jones has talked about maybe one or two. There's a striker from Lorient in France who I'm really interested in, Nigerian guy Tofi, who's looked very good for them this season. He's quick, powerful, good finisher. So he's someone that I wouldn't mind us getting in, but I think they're about to potentially have a partnership with Bournemouth, Lorient. So they might veto that one if we don't get in there quick. But we need some reinforcements. I don't know how quickly they'll come or whether they'll be the right sort of players. But we need them soon, and we need to figure out a way out of this, because at the moment, if I was a betting man and someone told me to put all my money on staying up or going down, right now I'll put it on going down.
Oh,
damn. Yeah, I'd put it on there too. Ivan Toney would put it on there too.
50 times.
230 something times.
Yeah.
50 times. Like, my friend was telling me that was Ivan Toney bets, if he did make him, was like 5 years ago when he's like in the like semi-pro down in the lower leagues.
Is that why he got off? Like, because I'm surprised he's still playing.
He's not off.
Yeah, it's just pending until he's been charged with it, but he's not been found guilty of it yet.
So then he could still play. Yeah, it looked like it. Yeah, but you know. So, Neil, you want to take another drink before we talk about Chelsea, or are you good?
It's not a bad idea.
You want to mix yourself something back there?
It's not a bad idea.
You'd be going straight from the bottle.
Yeah. Pour yourself something and take your time, because we want an explanation of Nottingham Forest versus Chelsea 1-1. A team it
really
feels
should
like
be quick because I mean, you know, it's kind of like Groundhog Day. We've had the same kind of game a lot of times in the recent past. So it's not that it's really new. It's reminiscent of a lot of games that Chelsea has played in the last couple of years, where we have a good half. I think we were really good in that first half, but even though we had just that one goal, and there was an element of luck in that goal. You know, with the ball falling nicely in Sterling's path after hitting the crossbar. But Pulisic was really good in that play. Like, that goal was all Pulisic, the way he got past his man, delivered a really nice cross, and Havertz kind of does his flick. He could have gone, like, it's been a really nice goal if that had got in. But then
it wasn't Havertz. That came off the defender and hit the post.
Oh, really? I thought Havertz got a touch on it.
No, it looked like him at first, but then they just kept on showing a replay, and then it came off. Was it Bali?
Yeah, probably. See, that just shows how terrible Chelsea played. Because if I'd seen the highlights or the replay, I would have known that. But I never even bothered to go back and check what's going on in that game.
You didn't want to see it again?
I don't want to see it. I just want to shut it up. Yeah.
You didn't want to at least watch the one positive thing that y'all did that game, and then stop watching the highlights after your goal?
Yeah, I should do that. Like, you know how they say, like, the extended highlights, but only good stuff. Yeah.
Right.
So, but then
the North Korean highlights.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So we come out of the dressing room after the half, and within the first few minutes, Nottingham Forest could have scored twice. It was so bizarre. Like, what just happened? And you think that it's probably just some inertia that's gonna, now that we've got the wake-up call, we're gonna start becoming good again. But then it just never, the half went completely the other way from the previous half, and we never even, and then the score from a corner, which again, like, when we had that really good spell under Tuchel where we were barely conceding shots, let alone goals. And we won the Champions League on the back of, one of the best ever defensive performances in the Champions League. We were so strong in our set pieces, defending them, like, if somebody would always pop up, head the ball away. But that's just gone out of the game. Like, we're so soft now. We feel like we can always concede when we.
It's criminal for a player to be able to chest the ball down and then volley it in from in the 6-yard box as well. He did really well with it, Aurier, but he shouldn't have the time to do those two things.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't know if it's the fact that it's not Mendy, it's Kepa, who aerially hasn't been aerial balls haven't been his strong point. But he is, Mendy's not been good, so he is our number one keeper right now. So we need to rely on him for the decision making on these things. And Thiago Silva, Koulibaly, such experienced defenders as Pulisic, you'd think that the decision making between those three would be pinpoint, but no, it was just such a soft goal to let go. And then after that, you think that you're Chelsea, you're a team that's got aspirations of being near the top. You got to chase the game, right? And that should reflect in what's happening from there until the end of the game. I don't think we had a shot. Forget a shot in target. I don't think we had a shot till the very, very end. It was bizarre. We weren't even getting into positions to score. So, we had one nice little cross, and Aubameyang goes for it, misses it. Pulisic, should be in there, and then it's almost like he thought, oh, Aubameyang has got this, so I don't need to stretch. And I'm like, dude, this is Chelsea. Nobody's got this. You should always think that the guy in front of you is gonna miss. Have you not been with this team for the last couple of years? So yeah, it was so pure. And then Graham Potter's kind of getting on my nerves with his press conferences now. Somebody needs to tell him that. I think maybe his barber needs to tell him, because his barber's the only guy in this whole equation that's trying to get him to Chelsea level. Everything else is falling apart. You know what he said? He said, I think it would have been unfair if he had gotten more than 1 point. How are you saying that as a manager of Chelsea? You gotta have a little bit of that big dick energy, even if it's not really happening for you. So yeah, he's so shy of shitting on the ref. Come on now. I've grown up on Jose Mourinho and Antonio Conte. Absolutely, you gotta have that little bit of fight. I mean, I guess it's just my frustration, but I definitely want to see a little bit more from Potter. But yeah, it's bad. I don't know. I always feel like every manager should be given to the end of the season to prove himself. Which is why I'm so much against Tuchel's sacking, even though that didn't really happen for footballing reasons. But I know we are not a great team right now. Okay, we don't have the divine right to compete for the league. We shouldn't be competing for the league. We should possibly not even be in the top 4 race. But we shouldn't be 9th on the points tally. We are not that bad a team. And actually, 9th is an overperformance. If you look at every other stat, we are not even in the top half. We are not in the top half for goals scored. We're not in the top half for shots taken. We're not in the top half for XG. We're not in the top half for big chances created. We shouldn't actually. 9th is a sunny day scenario for us. I don't know if this continues. On what basis are we going to back the manager? I want to back the manager, but he needs to show us something.
It's going to continue because you got Man City next.
And we got Man City back to back because we also have to play these fuckers in the first round of the FA Cup after already having played them in the first round of the League Cup.
I love it when Chelsea drops points and you drink. It's hilarious. Let me ask you a question about I keep looking at my phone.
Enzo Fernandez?
No, not that too. But so you played most of the players you played from your last game, except James because he was injured. But did you play the same formation?
Yeah, because now Pulisic and Ziyech are actually playing as Pulisic and Sterling are actually playing as wingers, which I think is a positive thing that I've been wanting to go to a 4 at the back because I always have felt like we have these wingers who are good on their day, but they never get to play in their actual positions. Like Pulisic, Sterling, Ziyech, and Hudson would have when he's here, although he's not here this season. But I think it's positive that they're playing in their roles. And, I hope that we stick to that. And I have confidence that that part of the game will figure themselves out. We just need to, scoring. I don't know. Aubameyang has now played 2 games on the bench, and Havertz, even though he had a good game last season, but with Havertz, it's like you're getting what you're seeing, that he's not an actual number 9. He's trying to be a number 9, so there's gonna be problems. So yeah, I don't know.
So play Aubameyang.
Aubameyang hasn't been that great.
And you hear Lukaku
and
talking.
Broya is injured for the whole season.
Injured.
So
and you hear Lukaku talking about he wants to stay at Inter.
Yeah, Lukaku, nobody's asking about you. Just like, why do you have to still bother us from the grave? Like, just stop taking our nails. Like, I feel like Will Smith right now.
Does he know that?
Get my wife's name out of your mouth.
Keep my team's name out of your mouth. Yeah, it looks rough, Neil. It looks rough to be a Chelsea fan right now.
We apparently have a agreement with this guy. So we bought him, Fofana from Malta. He was at the game in Chelsea tracksuit.
What's his position again?
He's a striker.
But he's like 19, right?
Yeah, so of course he's not going to be able to help us.
Not right now.
Yeah.
Unless you're desperate.
We apparently we are getting this Monaco centre back whose name I can't really pronounce. So we are definitely getting him. Everything is apparently done.
How many people are you buying, bro? Even though you're cursed defensively, somebody's always getting sick or injured, or 2 people left the club. So they went to, but man. And what do you think about Enzo Fernandez? 127 mil. Is he worth it?
No, I think he's a good player. I don't think he's a 127 million euros worth a good player. I generally don't feel midfielders should cost that much. Like, unless you're giving me like, 20 goals and assists in the season. Like, I feel like that amount of money should be reserved for the kind of guy who's taking you from good to great, or from great to like absolutely like
like when Maradona went to Napoli.
Yeah, or like how Haaland came to City, or even when Van Dijk and Alisson, when they went to Liverpool, when everything was in place, you just knew that you need those final pieces. But Enzo Fernandez isn't the final piece, so, and he's not going to be the difference maker that'll make sure that you're now competing for a league title. So I don't understand, and I generally don't know like what kind of a hedge fund this is that seems to be so itchy to just spend money.
To spend other people's money.
It's just like, we want him. What's his price? 50? We play at 60. And they're just getting anybody. So yeah, I think he's a good player though. Like, I watched him mostly during the World Cup, and I don't think he put a foot wrong, and I think he definitely deserved that Young Player of the Tournament award. And I like that he has a little bit of that, the shithousery in him. The fact that he absolutely launched the ball into the Dutch dugout was amazing. So yeah,
that was Paredes.
Oh, that was Paredes? I thought that was Enzo.
Yeah, against Netherlands. No, against Netherlands, that was Paredes who did that.
So not even getting the
but I mean, Argentina are all shit houses. Let's face it. Even Messi was a shit house this tournament. But I think though it speaks to the good business. I mean, whoever they sell him to and however much they sell him for, it's going to be a big profit, and it just speaks to the good business that Benfica do every single year.
I hope nobody buys him.
Like, if any club want to follow a model for produce it or finding good talent and nurturing them for a few years or even a couple of years, and then selling them for big profit, Benfica are the kings. And Porto aren't that far behind either.
I think it's
sounds
Benfica,
like Southampton used to do that.
Well, we did it though as a mid-Premier League team. Like, it's easier when you're giving those players Champions League experience like Benfica are, because the exposure level is different. So they did it with Nunez last season. They've done it with countless players over the years as well. So many. Like, every year they seem to have one big sale that will fund the rest of their squad for that season. And yeah, they buy smart. They've obviously got some of the best scouts in the game, especially in South America as well, that they always find the right player at the right price, and then they generate massive amounts of profit. They're they're very good at what they do.
Yeah.
And we've apparently now compiled this Avengers team of super scouts and recruitment people, and yet we're still having to throw money at problems. Like, why are we having to throw 130 million at a problem if scouting's going to be you don't need the best scouts in the world to be to be able to spend. That's your bank account.
I know that's like the different, like, you guys are in fight or flight mode. You're not thinking like with a clear head. So you're like, our fans don't want us to keep losing. We got to fix this thing. And I know we hired these people to help us build a team, but we ain't got no time for that also at the same time. And that's why I worry about all these young players that you're buying. Like, I don't think they'll ultimately really ever play for you guys, because you guys won't give them a chance just because being Chelsea. And Enzo will, but it's a lot of money to have over your head and play. It's like, when you it's a lot of money to be sold for at that young. I think Benfica, I know you got to make money, but you're doing these players a disservice, like selling them for that much money. And again, that's like the team who buys him and he's successful at should be selling him for that price after like his first spell at that team. It shouldn't be Benfica getting that European money for it, because it's just too early in his career and his development to put 120 something million on a young player like that. If I was him, I'd be like, man, I don't want that sell-on clause. Nah, change that shit. I wonder if a player can do that. I don't want that pressure. I want that responsibility.
Nah, Benfica is going to just hold you to his contract, but that's a release clause. That's not the money they've negotiated. So, but I will say this though, that we do need that kind of player, because, as I said, like in the last game, we weren't even getting into positions to take shots. Like, we weren't even creating any chances. So additions in midfield, if they can help with that, definitely it helps. And, the whole physical element, we have a very soft midfield. Like, Jorginho gets outrun by the referee. Conte, nicest man alive. Like, we are a little soft. So, and Kovacic gets injured a lot. Conte is almost always injured. Like, I was reading the stat, like, I think in the last more than 14, 15 months, Reece James, Ben Chilwell, and N'Golo Kante have played one game together. So there's definitely that midfield spot. Definitely we can use somebody like him. It's surprising though, like, we already got this guy Andre Santos from Vasco da Gama, who's also supposed to be this really nice technical midfield maestro. So I wonder what the plan is. Like, do we use both of them? Do we still need to buy a DM? Because Enzo Fernandez is not DM, right? Like, he's not, unless we're trying to use him as this modern DM who can, play the ball forward a lot. But I think he's more of a box-to-box player. So,
yeah, I read a report on him earlier. I've just found it now, and it says for 12.5 million euros, he's potentially a steal as an 18-year-old, but they describe him as a box-to-box midfielder. So it says that he can
Andre
play.
Santos? Are you talking about Andre Santos?
Yeah, Andre Santos.
Yeah, Andre Santos.
Yeah, so can play as a 6 or an 8.
Yeah.
Like high dribbling skills, good defensive stuff with tackling and in the air. But apparently, like, his ball retention is the issue for him. So good dribbling and stuff, but actual passing is a little bit lower. But I'll send you the link to that because it's quite a detailed statistical.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
report.
I need that because what I know so far is a Juninho quote where he said that he's better than what he was at that age. So, which is a good thing, I guess.
Well, there you go, Neil. That scouting network that they bought, they're doing their job, man. They found this guy, so you're gonna be all right. I'll just run through some scores real quick before we get out of here. Not gonna stay a lot on Man United this week, but we beat Wolves 1-0, and at Wolves is tough team to play. They're very frustrating. Marcus Rashford started on the bench because he showed up late for a meeting, but then got in the second half and went into full Marcus Rashford form. I think he created more chances in one half than Martial created in the whole game for himself. And Martial, I'm not going to be hard on you. It's just that you have to press. You have to press. And that's how you got goals in the preseason. That's how you got goals when we were down, getting our ass beat by Man City, and you came in as a sub. You put some pressure on you. You exerted yourself. Saying you got into it, and you weren't into it this game. So get into that mindset. That there's no more jogging if you're a forward for Man U. Man City, Everton. We talked about 1-1. Crystal Palace beat Bournemouth. And then here's the fun thing I wanted to end the podcast in was Villa beating Tottenham. So we could all have something a topic to enjoy talking about. And
end with a smile.
End with a smile, man. And Conte saying, like, the shit that Conte said, and I wanted to read it and go through it, but it's already 6:30 but it's like, bro, you just lost to a coach who just got to that team. And you're talking about how you're building. It's just not like when you're at home and the team that beat you has a coach that's like 5 games in and you've been with your team, say, almost a year. You can't talk about building a base and getting new players and spending money when the other guy hasn't bought even an assistant coach. You know what I mean? You can't lose to Villa and then talk about you want money. Like, you just take the L, say we underperformed, and don't blame personnel and the fact that you need money. It's just almost like not being accountable for how your team played. And Spurs actually tried to win the first half of a football game for the first time in a long time. But even that backfired.
Emery did what Emery does sometimes in these big games. He's got a tendency to drop off in the 4-4-2 shape that he likes and then play on the counter. And he's a lot more, I would say, tactically aware at when to do it than Conte. Because Emery knows, like, if you watch Emery teams, there's games where they go out and they pass the opposition off the pitch and they play high intensity football attacking wise, but he also knows which games to go, I'm gonna defend this one and try and hit him on the counter. So like I say, he's very clever at knowing when to do that, and he picked the perfect game to do this because Tottenham aren't used to having the ball. A lot of those players, they're like, Conte starved them of the ball this season. And then Villa came and sat deep and defended their half, and Spurs were like, how the hell do we deal with this now? Which, they're going to need to get used to that, because not every team will let them play like they often play, where they sit back. And yeah, I mean, they were effective Villa in what they did. They took their chances when they came, and yeah, Spurs a little bit. I think they had a goal disallowed in the first half, which if it had gone in and counted, could have been different. But yeah, I mean, credit to Villa, credit to Emery. It's it's a big result.
It was an ugly game just the way Emery drew it up. Like I could barely watch the game, but that's the plan, to look frustrating, to not make you look disjointed, and to make you feel like you're moving in quicksand, and then to hit you in the middle of your frustration. And then now you really need a goal, and then they frustrate you even more and mess with your patience and your timing and take you out of your rhythm. But yeah,
Emery, just looking at the stats, like Spurs only had 2 shots on target out of 6 shots, and Villa had 13 shots, 4 on target.
Damn. Yeah, it's like Conte has to do better than complain. It just never goes well when you're complaining about money. Like, I feel that's a part of what's going to happen with Klopp now. Like, he's complaining about everything, but maybe he's just protecting his team. But Conte, like, threw his team under the bus. Said, I got shit players. I need better ones. To the press. That's a weird flex. So I don't know if you got anything to add to that fire to Martin's team. It's just good to see them lose. I'll tell you that. They had it coming. There's a bunch of games they should have lost, and they came back and won. But this time they dropped full points. So I'm happy about that.
Well, it's especially good for you because you're taking their spot in the top 4 now. You're cementing that. Yeah,
they did us a favor. We passed them the game before. We still have a game in hand. And then Villa handed them this ass whooping. So now we're ahead of them with a game in hand. So now we're in the top 4, which if we slip out of it, I'm not going to be surprised. I'm going to stick to what I thought at the beginning of the season. But United's doing some very interesting things. I want to give a shout out to our new left center back, Luke Shaw, for doing an amazing job the last 2 games. A left back playing center back, partnering with Varane. There's so many players that have improved. And we didn't play a great game, but we still are not a full-fledged Ten Hag team. But on your way to becoming a full-fledged Ajax Ten Hag team, you'd like to win those games. And it's one of those games that I'm deciding if I want to see it again, and most likely no. I normally watch a United game twice, but it's I'll just take the win on this one. I ain't gonna see it again.
Is he playing left center back in the back 4 or back 3?
Yeah,
back 4.
Back 4. Oh wow, that's impressive.
Yeah.
So he's playing a proper center back.
Proper center back, no bullshit. Maguire's on the bench watching how it's done. Oh, that's
2 clean sheets.
Okay.
Maguire,
2 clean sheets.
The player, one of the players of the tournament, right? Wasn't he in the team of the World Cup?
I hope so we could sell him. But it's just Shaw's improved. We got Casemiro. Wolves is a frustrating team, but what we're also doing is becoming a team that's hard to score on. So even if we win by 1 or 2 goals, we've presented issues for the other team, and that's a part of what we need to do. And I think we could have even got more goals if Martial was in the right mode. Him not pressing, it's you might as well have Ronaldo, because Ronaldo can't press. You got to press, bro. You got to go full Mitrovic and press, and something will happen. As soon as Rashford got in the game, he shook it up and created some stuff. And he should have got that.
He's a little bit unlucky with that disallowed one. Yeah, you can't really do much when a ball bounces up like that.
Yeah, it would have hit his body and went in. Yeah, that one you should have. And it endangers us at the end of the game. It was like a horror movie with those corners that Wolves got at the end of the game, and they could have easily put put a goal in and tied that, and that would have been gut-wrenching, and that would have hurt. But also another shout out to an improved player, David De Gea, the saves that he's making, after the shaky start for just the whole team, what he's doing, just beautiful. I think we have Bournemouth next. Let me just check that. But yeah, United doing their thing. Now that's my La Liga thing.
Yeah, it's Bournemouth next for you guys.
Bournemouth next. I think it's a home game.
I told you Bournemouth are dropping off as well. They did nothing against Palace. I told you this is the Wire, Michael B. Jordan. This isn't Killmonger they got. This is
Well, I hope they wire us this win when they come to us tomorrow. Are we playing them tomorrow? Why is my phone like telling me what? So tomorrow is 11:45 is Leicester Fulham and Arsenal Newcastle. Then at 12 tomorrow, well, also at 11:45 tomorrow is Everton Brighton, and then it's Man U Bournemouth at 12.
Yeah.
And it's going to be hard to watch 5 games at the same time. That's crazy. Yeah.
And then Wednesday, Southampton play.
Yeah, Wednesday. Yeah.
Southampton, Tottenham. Thursday will play Steve.
No, Tottenham's playing Crystal Palace Wednesday.
Yeah, Wednesday night. And then City Chelsea on Thursday.
So that's the only game on Thursday, City Chelsea.
Do you want to save talking about that game until the podcast on Thursday? Or you want to talk about it now? It's your choice. I want you
to... I mean, yeah, we can preview it today now because that's going to be after the game. But, it's one of the best informed teams in Europe is playing one of the worst informed teams in Europe. So,
come on, Chelsea just dropped points, man.
But City, City did drop points. So
City just dropped points, man.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. It'll probably be also a first look at Haaland because he didn't start the League Cup game we played against them. And I think we actually, even though they rotated, we rotated a lot too. But that was one of our, even though we lost that game, that was one of our good performances. So yeah, let's say, I mean, what we can do. I'm not really hopeful, as you can tell, but
I could tell.
But yeah, but I've not been hopeful in a lot of Chelsea City games in the last couple of years, and we've gotten points out of them. So let's see.
Yeah, maybe you'll raise the level to play them. Yeah. Anybody else got anything that they want to wrap up? Say last words.
Oh, good.
Lee's face just says it all about Southampton. He's just not looking forward to the rest of the season. Like, yeah, I could tell.
I might even put myself through a live game at the weekend as well. We got Palace away in the FA Cup. Yeah.
So it's FA Cup weekend. I was wondering why there are no games, Premier League games.
Yeah, FA Cup at the weekend, and at least if I go watch that one and we lose, it won't hurt as bad because I'll be like, it's just the cup. Whereas a league loss might hurt a bit more. I've got the choice of either Forest on Wednesday or that, and I think Palace. I'll probably go. I like an away day.
Have fun there, man. I hope. I wish you good results. Or just a result that improves you for the next Premier League game. Your coach is still learning his team. We'll see what's up, Nathan. We'll see what's up. You got anything you want to end with, Neil, besides the doom and gloom that you've already been just spewing from your headphones?
No, I mean, sounds good. I was just going through Twitter and I see that Damar Hamlin plays for the Buffalo Bills. He's got a pretty bad knock while the game was going on, and it looks really serious. So I hope he pulls through. It's looking really serious. Like they're thinking of calling the game off. He had to be administered CPR during the game.
And, in the NFL?
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh shit.
And I hope they don't try and start the game again because clearly the players aren't going to be in the frame of mind to carry on. I hope we actually get some good news about him later in the day.
Oh, damn. I haven't watched football in so long. I don't know who that is, but I'll go look it up after we get off. Like, we hope he recovers.
Yeah.
You can get hurt in football. I'm surprised more people on a daily basis, on a game-to-game basis in football, don't get a serious injury that's like this. So, hey man, good luck. Hope you feel better, fam. So yeah, let's
and here's to 2023.
Damn, I forgot to. I don't have a drink. At least Lee got tea. I don't even have nothing. Yeah. Happy New Year, y'all.
And Martin, who's in Poland right now, is probably having a drink right now too.
He has to. It's so much fun. There's nothing more fun than typing Martin's own words in the chat. Huge crisis. After a Spurs loss. Huge crisis.
I mean, he actually, 2022, he kept saying huge crisis for no reason whatsoever. And then actually what happened at Chelsea turned into just one crisis after the other, and everything was huge. I'm like, never take this guy lightly.
Yeah, he did sound crazy, like the shit he was saying. But everything he said literally happened, to be honest.
Yeah.
It's almost like he's cheating. Maybe Martin can see into the future. Yeah, because even the Abramovich having the team taken away from him, he said that before the news said it. And was like, nah, this is just hateful, wishful thinking. And then that shit happened, bro.
And then he said Tuchel's gonna get fired.
Yeah, I was like, come on. And it happened.
I think he just wishes the worst on everyone, and sometimes it happens.
Yeah, that is true. That is definitely true.
I mean, I would like to think that, but it's been happening, bro.
Stopwatch is right twice a day.
True, but he's been right. Like left field right.
Yeah.
Left field right. All right, guys. Thanks for joining. Appreciate y'all. Happy New Year. Hopefully y'all get some points so that y'all don't have these frowns and shit next time I speak to y'all on this thing. And thank you all for listening. Like and subscribe wherever you listen or watch.
Happy New Year, everybody.
Happy New Year, everybody.